Great.
Hello, whoever is watching this. My name is Tamir, and this is my YouTube channel. Yes, let me get straight to the point before I slur any more words. Welcome to the first episode of the TNT channel, where on here we will talk all things Tokusatsu. Now, what is Tokusatsu, you may ask? Tokusatsu is live-action Japanese film or television that makes use of special effects. Finest examples of that being, as what we see right now, Ultraman, KamenRider, and as well known, Super Sentai, or as others like to know it as, Power Rangers. But today, we won't be reviewing Power Rangers. If you would want me to, leave a comment down below which you would like me to review. But honestly, in the comments down below, since I'm starting to be new at this, leave anything that you would want me to review Tokusatsu related. But today, we will be reviewing KamenRider, specifically the first episode of KamenRider ZO. Now, before we do anything about that, I will be right back in 1 second. Now, we start off the show, or we start this off, say, more or less, in the future, where we see our main rider in the form of Oma Zio. First of all, I like how this form looks, Oma Zio, because by now we already know what Zio's forms look like, period. Like Ghost, we all know what they look like, so one quick critique. Like, if this is going to be like his final form, just make it less bulky. Like, with how, within the chest and the waist there, just make that less bulky. Because if that was like his final form, he would look more like King Mondo and less like his own rider. That's only critique. But after we see Oma Zio, we see the spinning images of a few previous riders of the Heisei era, say Kuga Onward to Build. And next thing we see is armies just going after Oma Zio, and he is just destroying them all. Like, damn. He is way stronger than Decade, because, seriously, Decade's powerful, but he's never done shit like that without even touching anyone. But which doesn't make sense since he is Decade 2.0. But immediately as we see this glimpse into the future, this will actually lead on to the next thing we're going to talk about, which will be in a moment. Right now, I just want to talk about the opening, Over the Quarter, or I believe that's the name of the song. It's alright. It's not bad. Actually, it's dubstep. It's just... yeah, I'm just going to throw that out there right now. Like, it's dubstep. Like, if you play this in a club, no one will complain at all. Because it's dubstep, man. Yeah. Anywho, now, the first thing where we start off at is we first see our main rider, most likely coming home from school, Sogo Tokawa, I assume, if I pronounce his name right. And the next, we see Sogo walking home from school, and we talking to one of his friends, who is an expert in karate, and they're both talking about their career counseling exams, and Sogo says that he wants to be a king. And that is how you get bullied. Moving on, we see that before we go any further, Sogo gets up and he sees a certain type of watch on his bike, and instead of taking it with him, he puts it back because it's not his to begin with. But after that, we see and it is revealed that Sogo lives with his uncle, and he owns a clock repair business. And his uncle alone wants to really push the college entrance exams on Sogo so he can have a future. But instead, Sogo says, I don't need to take the college exams. Instead, I'm going to be a king. Quick thing about that first. How do you become a king? Where do you begin becoming a king? First of all, Japan, I'm not even sure if they have kings. More or less, they have emperors. And with it being the 20th century, they would have presidents. But anywho, after that, Sogo does go out for a bit, get some fresh air, and while he's out, he receives a prophecy from someone that's a fortune teller, telling him to beware of the red robot. And as the fortune teller exits the scene mysteriously, like Sogo goes about his time, not worried about his prophecy. And then the red robot comes out of nowhere and proceeds to go after him. And this robot is called the Time Mazin. The Time Mazin. Either way, it's piloted by someone who will be important at the end of this episode. And the next thing we see is Sogo trying to outrun the robot while on his bike. Which, first of all, a robot should be able to catch up to you and just grab you like that. But Sogo was able to outsmart the Time Mazin. But the Time Mazin does not care and still goes after Sogo to kill him. Until another Time Mazin comes out to save Sogo. And the person driving it tells him to get on. Leading us to what we first see in the beginning. It's the girl. I forgot what her name is, but I forgot. I apologize. It's the girl who revealing herself to be from the year 2068, showing us and showing Shogo that he will become an evil overlord, the Omazeo, in 50 years. And now, first of all, they are not in 2018. They are back in not the Jurassic period, but they're back in the time of dinosaurs, just to get Gades off their trail. And before we go any further, we first see Sogo about to be eaten by a dinosaur. Now, I don't know why, but this is just television in sync in general. When you're about to be eaten by a dinosaur and you want to run away from it, you run away from the time machine instead of going towards the time machine. But it doesn't matter either way because Sogo gets saved by the girl. And at this point now, Gates is on their trail. And at this point now, Gates is on their trail. And so... Wait, I almost forgot. Before going any further, the girl comes in and saves Sogo. That's one thing. And then they end up in the Endo period, to where the girl then takes a moment to explain the ride watch, saying, using this watch, you will become the evil overlord, Omazeo, and destroy everything and everyone. But before going any further, the girl, whose name I forgot, sees a fight breaking out, and so does Soga. So she uses him to see if he could actually break up the fight. And that ends with our main rider, everyone, soaking wet. Anyway, right after that scene happens, Sogo gets out of the water, he's still soaking wet, he sees the guys fighting, getting along, and he's just happy that they're done fighting. Lesson, everyone. Let this be a lesson, everyone. First rule about people from the Endo period, they're dicks. Anywho, after that, the secondary writer for this season finally shows up and scares everyone And Tsukuyomi and Sogo, like, they get out of there. Like, they just leave. And Gates finally goes after them, actually on their tail. As they hit once, Sogo is knocked out of the Time Mazin and lands in 2017, where he runs into KamenRider Build and KamenRider Cross Z, like destroying a smash. So after that fight, Sento and Ruga introduce themselves, and they all go back to the cafe, where Tsukuyomi then later finds them and shoots them all and grabs Sogo and takes him home, since interactions with the past could mess up the future, and she doesn't want that to happen. So anyway, Sogo goes home, and he tells his uncle everything, assuming everything was a dream, and then I keep forgetting to do this. God, I'm not gonna edit this out. I'm just gonna get to it right now. Like, there's a basketball player that's playing ball and then is almost hit by a car until someone that's a person comes out of nowhere, tells them that originally you were going to get hit by that car, but if you make a contract with them, they will save your life. So the basketball player makes the contract, and he then becomes a monster. So this is an interesting thing right now. We are now getting Victims of the Week again this season, where the victims are the monsters. We haven't had that since Forza, technically. Well, the only reason why I say technically is because the first thing I was going to say was W. But either way, we have Victims of the Week again. Or, no, last season with Build, early on with Smash, last time there. Anyway, my point is, this human, who I assume is one of the villains, turns the basketball player into a monster. And it's called KamenRider Another Build. And said monster can use Build's abilities of taking elements and turning them into full bottles, which I assume is going to be the special type of power for the monsters this season, able to create collectibles from previous seasons, to which is actually quite interesting. And the Another Build costume itself, it looks like a monster. And that's that there. Moving on, we see like Sogo with his uncle, as his uncle is giving him advice and using the hands on a clock as an example. The moral being, for opportunity comes once in a lifetime, so it's better to take the opportunity now while you're still young and not think about it and regret it later. So as Sogo goes to ponder about that, he sees Another Build attacking people and goes out of his way to help, because one of the persons that the monster was then going to get was Sogo's friend, the dude who just flipped him in the beginning. He's getting attacked, and Sogo comes out to help. It doesn't work the first time, so Tsukuyomi comes to stop the monster and tells him, don't do anything to help, because he still has the watch on him. Now everything comes full circle when the fortune teller comes back, tells them of the future, of how Zo is to become our king and rule over. And at this moment, like, Sogo, he finds his resolve. He says, I'm going to use this power, but I'm not going to become evil. With that said, his ride watch then responds to him and that becomes his ride watch. Like, the fortune teller, by the way, named Woz, W-O-Z, Woz, he shows up and he gives him his Ziku driver, to which then Sogo puts on and activates his ride watch, and there we go. He henshins. For right now, let's talk about his henshin device and his suit, the Ziku driver. This is a pretty nice looking driver. I honestly like it. It has that crystal-esque thing going on. Man, I dig it. I might want to buy it. Now, for Zio's suit, I really like this suit. It's a good-looking suit. What wins me over about it is that it's black, and that's one of my favorite colors. But all the other colors supported as well. Like, for example, magenta and silver, because of that whole watch links he has down in the middle, which I really like. And another thing I would like to point out is that he has the clock hands for antennas again, because KamenRider. But yeah, Sogo has now become KamenRider ZO. So, in Shogo's first fight, he's clearly a novice because the first punch he throws connects. But after that, like we said before, he's not a fan of fighting, so it's made pretty clear he doesn't have any fighting experience. But he does, in a quick study type of way, gain some in his first fight as Zio, to which later he then pulls out his sword and defeats the monster from there. And immediately after that one slash, the Zio Edge slash, another build is destroyed, and the basketball player is okay. He's back to normal. He's fine. And as Wars is a bit pleased, Tsukuyomi is a bit scared at the moment, saying her present become the future. And then immediately after that, we then see once again the secondary rider for this season, Gates, and we see him transform for the first time. Let's talk about his suit. Like, I'm more of a fan of Zio's suit, but Gates is good too. The strap's good. The visor I thought would be a little weird, but in this episode as well, it works in some cases. So as KamenRider Gates transforms for the first time, he then transforms again using the Ghost Ride Watch and uses the KamenRider Ghost Armor. Now, let's talk about that suit. From the waist up, it's good, very reminiscent of Ghost's base form. And the visor, like Gates' visor in this case, actually works with it like sticking out in a way. And it just worked. For me, it works there. The one thing though about this form that is completely distracting are those shoulders right there, because for each form, like the collectible of that season makes the shoulders. So those two big freaking icons there are, if they were a bit smaller, like around here, it wouldn't be so bad. But they're just huge, like this big, like someone's head. And they're just distracting. But as Gates charges at Zio for the first time, we also see some of the luminaries from the icons pop out. So with the Ghost Ride Watch, like anyone, Gates or Zio can use the powers of, I guess, similar to what Ghost has, and that's actually quite amazing. And that concludes today's episode of KamenRider Zio. Before I go any further, I will admit a few things. Yes, I know I'm in a different location. Before I was in my bathroom, and now I'm in my kitchen. And 2, I have a nasty cough today that's been happening since yesterday, so I'm now drinking some ginger mixed with honey and hot water to make myself feel better. And 3, yes, I'm having pizza right now because I ordered it earlier, because it's been on my mind for pizza for like almost a few days now. Now, with that said, this first episode was pretty good. I'd say it's about average, but it's still passable. There's good pacing in it, and at moments there's plot break, plot break, plot break, plot break, plot break. So as the story is developing, we do get moments to breathe. And honestly, it's perfect, and it's totally fine. It doesn't make the story or the show go by too fast, and we have a moment to let everything settle in. The motivation for the secondary writer to go back in time and kill Omazeo before he becomes an evil overlord makes sense, and because if you think it makes sense, because it's a generic, well, not so generic. It's a time travel idea that you never see go to fruition yet, and so you do see it go to fruition, but you don't see the development of it first. So over time, we'll see how this turns out in episode 2. And another thing as well, Gates using his Ghost Ride watch to transform, like, that would be a good idea, but the only question I have is, how did he get the ride watch to do ghosts? Because whenever I see like a form change in like the first episode now, I begin to question it and wonder where, how, all that stuff. So if he did a form change, I wouldn't mind it as long as it got explained on how did he get it. Because I wouldn't W it walking into the same thing, but then I remembered in the first episode it is explained in the first episode on how they got all the Gaia memories. Overall, this is a good first episode of this season, and I hope the rest of the show goes well. I'm not going to be too optimistic about it because I don't want my optimism and for this show to go flat down, because I'll be honest with you, since last year, I try not to be too optimistic about new shows coming out, because you never know how they're going to turn out in reality. But with that said, this was honestly a good start. Shogo is the main writer. He's pretty young, but he has a lot to learn. And who knows? Like, this could be like the first time since Gaim, really, where we've had a protagonist had to learn how to be the protagonist, but in a different sense. In the future, he's the antagonist, so it could be interesting to see him rewrite future. And with that said, that has been the first episode of the TNT channel. Someone's in my shower right now. Don't worry about that. But if you like this episode, stay tuned for more. Next time I will do episode 2. And I like to post more content on here as well, because I would like to do reaction videos and whatnot. But I have some ideas in mind. So stay in store for it. And I will see you guys next time. Bye, everyone.